in, and we're checking with proxies. Hello back there. Hello. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. I just am apologizing for the delay in the start. We still have people checking in, and they are double checking on proxies. So I apologize. We're going to be probably another 5 to 10 minutes before we actually start the meeting. So I apologize for that. Continue networking as you were, and I'm thrilled to see so many people here. We'll be back in just a couple minutes, okay? We'll try to move this along as fast as possible. Here today. It's amazing turnout, it's wonderful, and we really appreciate it. We have to verify that we have a quorum present, which is 50 people. I think you would all agree that we have a quorum. Yes. Okay. We are planning on having a full day of discussion of all the issues and concerns. However, the business of this meeting, and I'm calling this meeting to order, the business of this meeting is regarding the bylaws. And I would ask Peter McDowell to come forward and make a motion.
Madam President, I move that we vote to adopt the following resolution. That this membership vote that the Board of Directors of the Cape and Islands Association of Realtors Incorporated on or before December 30th, 2011, call meetings of the membership in full compliance with the bylaws of the Cape Cod and Islands Association of Realtors Incorporated, and request that the leadership of the Cape Cod and Islands... Can everyone hear me? I think it's I'll start one more time. We've got to make sure this goes all day long and that we all miss our lunch. I move that we adopt the following resolution. That the membership vote that the Board of Directors of the Cape Cod and Islands Association of Realtors Incorporated on or before December 30th, 2011 call meetings of the membership in full compliance with the bylaws of the Cape Cod and Islands Association of Realtors Incorporated, and request that the leadership of the Cape Cod and Islands Multiple Listing Service Incorporated also hold simultaneous meetings, including all required informational meetings and notices to consider and decide their proposed bylaw amendments defined in the petition submitted on September 2011. Said proposed bylaw amendments shall be referred to the New Bylaws Committee to be comprised of balanced representation for recommendations to said membership.
I will second the motion.
And, can I have some rationale for the motion from either of you? Chris, you want to speak? We're trying to get the motion up on the board. I apologize.
Good morning, everybody. I am Chris Coy, and I'm Director at Large for the Board of Directors. And the rationale behind this, we've had several meetings, and yesterday we had what we feel is I'm sorry, can you hear me now? Hold it close. We've had several meetings. Yesterday we had a very productive meeting, and as a result, Peter and Joan and Leo and myself have come up with this resolution, and the rationale is very simple. We want it known that the Board of Directors is not passive on this. We recognize the petition, and we recognize the need for change. We're actually in agreement with a lot of what's coming down this way. However, we do need to follow a certain protocol in accordance with the bylaws. So we respect it. We're looking forward to working with Peter and the rest of the new bylaw committee, and I'm confident that we will be back to a united front.
Peter?
Thank you, Madam President. Chris did outline exactly what happened yesterday afternoon. We got together and we've agreed to these things. The activities of the bylaw committee, which is a brand new, balanced bylaw committee, will deliberate and make recommendations to this meeting and at the informal meetings that will be called by the board consistent with this resolution. Basically, the petition that all of you, hundreds of realtors and participants that submitted back in September, that draft of bylaws will be submitted in its entirety to that membership meeting. At that membership meeting, the membership can move and make amendments to that draft, ultimately voting something that's consistent with the majority and the opinion of the majority of the membership there and voting. The one thing that will be important to understand is in the event that the bylaws are changed, somewhat consistent with what our petition is, that it may be the last meeting for which there will be proxies. A wrestling match with counting proxies that takes hours will be substituted with a different method. Now, if I may, Mr. Chairman, just to cite and to refresh what the petition did in fact do. Our petition that was submitted in September calls for all business meetings to be open to the membership as a matter of right. It guarantees access of the members to all records and minutes to be open to the membership with all meetings that must have minutes developed in order for the actions to be valid at that meeting. Today, there are very few minutes. The petition also replaces the Leadership Nominating Committee with nomination paper usage like is used in towns. And there is also term limits for offices that go on for many years. We will create, the bylaws draft, the amendments suggest creating an election committee to conduct the elections. The amendments propose to replace the leadership control of the proxy voting with electronic voting that any of us sitting any place with our own computer can access and vote regardless of where you are, within the time frame that is set by the board of directors for the elections of whatever the issues may be at the time. Our bylaw draft proposes the elimination of the executive committee of a chosen few that have the same spending power as the full board of directors. Our bylaws propose the reestablishment of the finance committee that existed for many years but has not in the recent years. Also, the bylaw amendments propose expanding the board of directors from 11 to 15 and also would require monthly meetings. I served many years ago on a board of directors of this association, and we met monthly, and the attendance was very good. It would also require that the association establish a meeting bulletin board on the website that would alert membership to time, location, and purposes of all meetings, that should issues develop, we would know about them and we could attend, and we would be guaranteed access to attend that meeting. Participation may be limited, however, it would be consistent with the practices of the association. Also on the webpage would show the names, terms of offices of all officers and directors, so that any of you who wish to participate in the election process, you will have equal access that will then be with a nomination paper, etc. There will be no longer a nominating committee that's controlled by the association. Again, another is there will be a limit, suggesting a limit on the MLS fees to be no higher than is necessary to provide a quality MLS service. Also, in the bylaw amendments would be to grant the membership, that is us, should ever the instant develop, authority to remove an officer or a director and to overrule any director's vote to supersede an MLS participant's vote to amend the MLS bylaws. Basically what that means is the final authority in such matters is the membership and not the leadership. However, we would expect realistically this would be very seldom used, but it would be there. And then finally, there are two other issues that may be subject to change, and that is the proposed bylaw amendments that was submitted in September called for a second election of officers and directors this year to fill the expanded director seats and other offices that, because of the timetable, may be very difficult to fulfill this year, and there may be a legitimate question as to whether that issue is a valid one based on the time here. And finally, the least important is they've defined the bylaw proposals, define the standing committees. Madam President, the situation here is that the bylaws is the same as the Constitution. And what we've tried to do is to plug in the open meeting and the access to the happenings of the leadership very similar to what happens in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, dealing with cities and towns. And we're hopeful that this can be brought together, and when we do have that meeting in December, what we will be doing is we will definitely be voting on that. There may be some amendments and some proposals developed by the Board of Directors based on what the new bylaws committee may develop between now and that time. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Peter. Yes?
You only mentioned one set of bylaws, those submitted on September 2011. What happened if other members decide to propose bylaws and can submit them to the Board of Directors in writing? You are not allowing any other changes to be made except this specific set of notes presented to the board on September 2011.
I'll try to address that. That's not necessarily true. This is just one slate of bylaws that are in. The new bylaw committee, these are going to be, just so you understand, these are not necessarily just going to an informational meeting and then to another meeting like this for you guys to vote on. These exact bylaws, plus any that come across the table, minus some of these, it doesn't matter. They're going to go to the bylaw committee because that's the proper protocol. That bylaw committee is going to review them, send them to the Board of Directors for an opinion, and then it goes to an informational when it comes to you guys for a vote. So there is room for more or less to be added.
The wording is not there that anything else would be. Is it defined in the petition submitted?
I can't hear the question.
It's defined in the petition submitted. And that's all it says. It does not say it will entertain anything else.
She's mentioning that this strictly reflects the bylaws that are outlined in the petition. This motion does, however, the bylaw committee is going to they're going to convene on a fairly rigorous basis because this December 30th date is going to come fast. So the bylaw committee will look, consider, and push forward or not push forward any bylaw changes that anybody feels that's important in this room or outside. So you can add, yes.
Can somebody define balanced representation? Is that geographical or?
No, that's really just to try to show that this is, we are working very hard to get a united movement showing that, you know, we have the people on the new bylaw committee are made up of part of the, I hate to call it the concerned member group, but that's what we'll call it, and part of it from the general membership. Some board of directors, some not, some past presidents, and so on. Peter.
So, as of now, there's no defined bylaw committee.
Joan is actually going to, she's in the process of trying to put it together, and I'm sure that she'll be happy to share with you what we have come up with so far. And we've been doing this in conjunction with Peter and Richard Waystack and Leo and Doug. And so I think the consensus is that we're trying to do this so that you have a room full of people that are trying to come out with something that's in the best interest for everybody, no agendas.
Who is on the committee now? Just you and Peter?
I'm not on the committee. I've run away from that committee for 20 years. I'm afraid I'm going to be there, though.
Just in answer to the previous question over here, I think the word up there is proposed bylaw amendments. It doesn't say they're cast in stone.
Right. Yeah, it does say proposed.
Thank you, Madam President. I think the lady's question is a valid one, and basically what this resolution is the new bylaw committee, and I understand that the discussion has been that Richard Waystack probably is going to be chairman of the bylaws committee, and I think that's a good thing. The bad thing is I'm probably going to be on that committee too. However, I think the lady's question is valid, and the intent is that this bylaw committee will be entertaining anything else and actually maybe become a part of a vehicle if there's appropriate amendments to our previously submitted bylaws that they will be considered at that meeting as well. And if any of you have any thoughts or any concerns or proposals for the bylaw committee, give them to Richard Waystack. He's the man that can carry it.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions? Does everyone understand the motion that's on the floor? I just want to explain that if we call to a vote here, that we'll have a verbal vote. If everyone is in favor, then the proxies that were signed on either side are really irrelevant because we will pass this motion. Yes, question?
Well, I still don't understand who's on the committee. It says there's a new one that's going to be.
Yes,
It already is comprised.
We started forming it yesterday when we had this meeting of the minds, and I have asked Mr. Waystack if he would be the chair, and he has agreed. Margot Pisacano has agreed to be on it as well. Doug Azarian and Peter McDowell.
That's one-sided.
We're trying to make it even-sided so that we have people who are on that side as far as making the proposals, so that we make sure that we have everybody's input. I've asked Bernie Klotz if he would be on the committee.
He's here.
Yes. Are you back there, Bernie? I spoke also with Dee Dee from Mashpee last night, Dee Dee Freitas, and she actually also agreed that she would serve if she was needed. So we're trying to have a diverse group from, yes.
Who else is going to be on that board, on that bylaw committee?
We have 7 people, and if anyone is passionate about this and would like to serve, then please contact us, because some people would prefer not to carry on that we've asked. So if you would like to serve on the bylaws committee, please let me know. We are limited to, I believe, 7 people. Yes.
So basically, the understanding that I'm getting is that this is sort of a politically balanced committee.
Yes.
In that case, since the members, I forget what you're calling them.
Concerned members.
They're claiming that they've got 400 people on petition and there's 2,000 in our group. I think that it should be limited to 25% from the concerned members.
I think that everyone has the best interest of the association on both sides. And quite frankly, we as a board also feel that many of these bylaws need change. They need to be addressed, and we agree with that. So I think that the bylaws committee will be very straightforward, and the final vote comes to all of you. We can't change any of these bylaws until we go to informational meeting and then to general meeting. And so any of these suggestions or proposed bylaws, you will have to approve. Okay? Is everyone clear with that? Yes.
Is there anything that limits a rule or law that limits the committee to 7? Wouldn't such a large issue be better served by a larger committee?
It's fine with me. I'd have to look at our bylaws and double check on that. So again, if you would like to serve, please let us know, and we will look over that and see how large a committee we can have.
I'm just going to add one quick thing. Peter and I were speaking earlier, actually no, Richard and I were speaking earlier, and one of the things that we are looking to do is have the bylaw meetings open to people in the membership that want to either not oversee, but watch what's going on and learn and so on. And and then obviously feedback can come from that. They can't participate in the bylaw meeting, but you'd be welcome to come, add your input, and have that in for consideration. We really want to. Nobody ever wanted to get involved with the bylaws, so now everybody does. So we'll make that forum open for you to attend.
Over here.
I have a question wondering why it took a month for you to get the bylaw committee started, because these were presented to you back in September.
This is a new committee. We had a bylaws committee in place. We actually had 2 meetings. The first meeting actually Just the first meeting that we had, Peter was not available. He was in Europe, and so the committee decided to wait until September to have another meeting, and then basically all of this has happened. So we decided that we'll start a new committee, and I think that we'll be more positive on with the new people on the committee. Yes?
Will the bylaws committee, having an open meeting, realizing the public at large or the membership at large will not participate, may they submit a letter requesting that they be put on the agenda regarding some items they might want addressed at a future meeting of the bylaws?
Why not? Absolutely. We welcome any input.
I'm just bringing this up.
No, and I appreciate that, and absolutely.
Some of the agenda is made up and you have to stick to it, so it can be put on the future.
No, absolutely.
So the membership committees, they have this opportunity.
Membership definitely has that opportunity. Absolutely. Yes, Rich?
It's my intention to run the meeting as open, as transparent as possible, and I will ask assistance of leadership and the staff to potentially set up an email address here at the board for anyone to send proposed bylaws, information that you would like us to consider, so that it is a totally transparent process. We will run the meetings by Robert's rules. We will have minutes. I will request of leadership and staff that we have a staff member present to take minutes. The whole idea is that everyone has come to an agreement. We need change. The best way to do it is together with one very basic tenet in mind. What is the best interest of this organization? So I will do my best to serve.
Are we ready to vote? Yes. All those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? Those abstain? Motion carries. Rick?
Madam President, I make a motion to adjourn this meeting and continue in an open forum format hereafter.
Second.
All those in favor? Does everyone understand the motion? Okay, I'm sorry. I'm going to give you the phone. We need all those little ones.
Thank you. Madam President, I make a motion to adjourn this meeting and to continue in an open forum format hereafter.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? Abstained?
Okay.
Where's everybody going?
Nobody leave. Nobody leave. This is still, we are in an open forum now. We have a large presentation for you. It's just that the actual business of the general meeting has finished. Now we're going to start on our presentation. Yes?
Could the members introduce themselves, because I don't know them all.
That was my first point of order.
Thank them for volunteering their time.
Thank you so much. Before we start the open forum, I first would like to take a moment of silence here. We've had a great loss this year of many of our membership. And some of you may not even know this yet, but anyway, I would like a moment of silence for Suzanne Babineau, Helen Carroll, Sheila Burse Crowell, Sally Linda Hutton, Diana Panessis, Stephen McCarthy, Catherine Sugg, and Theodore Vreeland. All of these members will be greatly missed by the Realtor community. Thank you. Okay, I would like the Board of Directors to please introduce themselves. Please stand and tell the membership where you are from as well. I can start. I'll pass the mic.
I'm David Boyce.
Wait, David.
I'm David Boyce. I represent Nantucket.
Hi, I'm Mary Little. I'm the Lower Cape Director. Hi, Amy Massey-Weeder, and I'm a Director at Large.
It's all right.
Jory Fleming, and I'm 2012 President-elect.
Hello, I'm Rick Sheckman, and I represent the Mid-Cape.
David Callahan, past president.
Bill Arroyo, Martha's Vineyard. I'm Chris Coy, and I'm a Director at Large.
Cindy Lee Caldwell, and I represent the Upper Cape.
And I'm Joan Witter, your President. I first of all would like to thank my board because quite honestly, I've worked with them for quite a while, and these are upstanding, unbelievable individuals who have given up of their time and their energy and spent a lot of time. We have a lot of meetings, and it's a privilege to work with them. So I want to publicly thank them. I now would like to introduce Chris Coy and Jim Crocker to go over the history of this building and the build out of the lower level.
I'd like to click one on right now. Is that going to work? Two microphones. Marcia is going to bring up, oh, she just did, good. One of the things that I'd like to do here is perhaps give you all just a brief history, and I will keep it brief. This idea of staying here all day is not on my program. A brief history of this building and how it's transpired to get to where it is today, and then certainly address some of the comments that have been made about the lower level build out. First of all, how many people in the room remember the old building on Station Avenue? Does anybody remember the buckets we had for the leaks coming through the roof when it rained? Yes, we do. So this is really quite a treat to be able to fit this many people in this room here. And I think that the credit for where the building's at right now goes to a huge amount of people, certainly not the 11 members that are sitting up here. It's great that we're here now, but a lot of people worked really hard to get to where we are. So we're going to try to give you a little bit of a history. If you guys can maybe make a note if you have a question and save that to the end, I'd appreciate it. I'm certainly not an expert on this one, so I'm going to share this with Jim Crocker, who is more so. Just a quick history here. In 1998, everybody remember Marie Connolly? She was the one that helped us with the sale of Station Avenue. And in 1998-99, Jim Traynor, he led the building committee to try to help make this whole building take place here. 1999, I believe Dick Martin was president-elect that year, and he actually identified this parcel as a place for us to build the building. And so kind of an interesting group of people in there. The building... Yes.
In '99 is actually where I became involved. I was on the land acquisition committee, and I've been a party ever since, so be careful what you volunteer for.
This is, actually, sorry. Here's a list of the people that were volunteers on the design committee. You'll recognize a lot of names from today and from the past. And I don't really remember how long they were working on this here, but I know a lot of hours and a lot of time went into it, so thanks to those people. 1999. Everett Boyd was hired as a paid consultant to prepare the proposal for the building of the new center here. In 2000, John McShane, builder-developer from Osterville, was selected after going out to bid to build the building.
If I may at this point too, Everett Boyd deserves a great amount of our appreciation. He spent a great amount of time acknowledging this site and what it would take to build on a corner lot. A corner lot obviously has a lot of setbacks, including parking and building setbacks, and it really is how the footprint came to be for our association. Everett Boyd was a hired consultant, and at the 2000 point, we turned it over to volunteers to do clerk of the work activities, so Everett was paid through to the 2000 period.
In February of 2002, I wanted to give you a snapshot of the board of directors. You see some familiar faces, and actually the one that comes out is Amy Green. Always jumps out at me because I served a lot of years with her, and she just took on more and more committees and everything else, and was just a great asset to the organization. But you'll see her name come up a lot throughout the process, not just with the building, but pretty much everywhere the association needed her. There was a motion made by Hamilton Hurd to actually move for McShane Construction to get the bid. So I just wanted to give you guys from the minutes an actual snapshot of the motion. Does anybody in the room know how many square feet that we've got here?
95.
95? Anybody else? It's actually 9,980 square feet. Does anybody want to guess why it's that number? Exactly. So it was actually fairly strategic that the building was built that way. Because of what Jim was just speaking about as far as the size of the lot, the setbacks required, the parking that we were going to need in order to run this as the way to the use that we wanted to use it, we were able to have approximately 7,200 square feet, 7,200 square feet above ground, which is prime space. And then to get the balance of it, the only alternatives you have is to go up or to go down. Well, you don't go up on commercial if you don't have to, so the logical place when they designed and built the building was to go down. If anybody has not been into the basement or the lower level, I don't want to call it basement because it's nice, and it is specifically designed with 2,600 or 700 square feet of space with full height ceilings. Then it strategically drops down to a 7-foot, what they call a short ceiling, which you can't use for habitable space, for storage. And then as we're sitting right here, we're sitting on a slab. So it's very strategic. So just so you understand, from the very beginning, the very first building permit, this building was slated to be built out to the tune of 9,980 square feet. In 2000, when we were doing this, there just simply was not the money to do it. In fact, you'll see in a minute that Amy Green was able to actually go and secure a good rate on a commercial loan to help us make this happen in the first place. And I'll explain in a few minutes why we didn't have the money at that point and how it's actually grown.
If I may, Chris?
Yes.
May I ask how many people in the audience have a builder's license? Mr. Dacey, are you going to raise your hand? Is yours a commercial license or a residential license? There is a distinction in Massachusetts between a commercial and a residential. When you approach, I'm sorry, I missed one?
Australia.
Oh, Ross Charlie, how are you?
Yes.
The distinct difference is what's necessary to go into a commercial type building. And this building was built in what's called a Zone 1, and Chris is going to take you through the steps, or start the steps, of our septic system too. So we not only have the complexity of the footprint, the parking, what was lower level, what was upper level, what was full habitable, but we also had a very complex septic system based on the Zone 1, which is the recharge area for the public well supply. One further step about the lower level, when you go down, you'll see you have to step up to get to the shorter height. The town was trying to press us to 4-foot crawl space on that height. We prevailed to get a full 7-foot, which has allowed us some great storage over the years. So there's been a step on every portion of this to minutely secure habitable space for us so that this would have a 20 to 50 year lifespan for us and our association. Thank you.
Thanks, Jim. You know, one more thing about the original permit that was drawn on this. Because the town wanted to sort of delineate the lower level, and we wanted the flexibility of how it was going to be used or not used, whether it was in conjunction of our efforts or independent, the town is actually, the original permit called for 5 dedicated parking spaces and up to 9 employees. So you're going to see the 5 and the 9. If you did any research on this, you'd see 5 and 9 flash up from time to time.
That further speaks to the issue when we were before the ZBA fighting for the 7-foot storage area. We committed 5 of our parking spaces to the lower level being finished. Lower level finishes have changed dramatically based on ADA issues as they've occurred over the last 12 years. ADA issues are last 10 years, Title V issues of the 90s. So I'll get into great length in discussing ADA compliance.
Okay, excuse me, as mentioned before by Jim, in 2000, Jim was elected or voted in as the clerk of the works to oversee the construction of the building. Again, here's the board, a snapshot of that board of directors. At that point in 2000, I believe Dick Martin was president, Doug was president-elect. Amy Green made the motion and it was seconded and carried to hire a periodic inspector to oversee the construction. And was that Dan Brayman?
Yes, yes. Dan Brayman is a structural engineer who assisted to ensure the value of the commercial building and the truss system in different locations. I was a volunteer.
Shortly after that, Amy, who was the treasurer at the time, we asked her to do some research to find a way that we could secure a loan in order to finish this building so that it was in, on the entry level, was in a complete practical use for us to move forward with the business. And again, I just wanted to, I'm going to continue to give you snapshots of the boards of directors because you're going to see they're changing. There's familiar names and familiar faces because there's a lot of people that served. I mean, I got to give, Doug Cciaor was the one that brought me in as a president-elect, brought me up from the clerk and so on. And, I enjoyed working with him, and he's put a lot of time and a lot of effort into this organization over the years. And so you'll see his name coming up quite a bit. There's a lot of people who have done it, but it does change. I just want to kind of let you know that. And I know that there's a lot of people that think I've been up here way too long, and I cannot agree with you more. So I'm gonna call out for my replacement at the end of the meeting. Just a little snapshot here. Dick Martin, who, because he was president, hosted the grand opening. I don't know how many people came to that here, but I actually can remember it. It was pretty fun. People were pretty impressed with it. Deb Martin and Amy Green decorated the place, picked the colors, the artwork, and so on. A good joint effort on that one. The conference center officially opened. At that point, we didn't have a lot of bookings, but we officially opened. And that is, we actually, one of our goals, and we'll talk about that in a second, is how that's going to continue to grow. And then the school opened up, the Cape and Islands Association of Realtors Real Estate School, which actually has been a very good success. And I'll share that with you there. That's actually one of the ways that's helped the organization grow the most. 2002, Board of Directors voted to build out the lower level. Now again, that's 2002. That was 2 years after we had actually built the building. And I believe Dick Martin and Doug Cciaor recommended Jim Crocker. The reason that they did that, and if you want to speak to it, you can. When Jim was the clerk of the works overseeing the building here, and if anybody's even built a house or a garage, you know that design changes can just run rampant and almost ruin a project and the profitability. Jim kept this to, and Henry, you have to give me the numbers if I'm not exactly right, but it was one job change, one design change. Give me my numbers.
Okay, we built it $60,000 under budget, 3 months ahead of schedule, and there was only one change to the
$60,000 under budget, 3 months ahead of schedule, and one design change. So that's a pretty good track record. That means somebody's paying attention and it was done well. So a logical choice to oversee the build out of the lower level. So.
If I might make a point on that. I was hired, which means I've always given all of my time for free. It was a 5% markup at that point to cover my overhead during the period that portion was advanced.
Okay, there's another snapshot of the Board of Directors that shows a motion by Amy Green, seconded, to authorize James Crocker of Crocker Enterprises to build out the rental lower space. So, and it describes the cost plus 5% administrative. The abstention was James Crocker. Okay?
I'd like to further point out, as it says, I have never voted on hiring myself. And when it says cost plus, we have produced every single invoice from all of my vendors at my purchase power. So you get all my reductions as a buyer of goods, for the industry that I'm in. So you are paying invoice from my vendor direct. There's no middleman, there's no markup. It's a true hard cost of what it would cost me on any given job. And I am a commercial licensed builder.
One of the, this building was built on a special permit. There's a couple reasons why. You know, one of them was a new ordinance that they called for parking to be aft of the building on a Yarmouth beautification program. There's actually a bike trail over here. I don't know how many people know that that actually used to be called County Road. County Road had not been abandoned at the time that we built this building here, so lo and behold, we ended up on a corner lot, which represented just endless limitations. So we were able to get a special permit to build the building, again at the square foot that we talked about. As a result, we had to put in an alternative septic system, which is right out here in the parking lot, and it's a big green thing. And 2 years into it, the environmental company that we had hired, and when I say we, the organization had hired to do the periodic testings and send the reports into the state, we're not doing it correctly. And it failed. And Jim's going to tell you sort of where we went from there.
It may be on our next slide.
Oh, you want to do it on the next slide?
Sure.
Okay.
I believe that's the septic slide.
Oh, yeah, there you go.
First of all, I am also a licensed Title V septic inspector. I've installed a great variety of septic systems, including this type of system in 3 different locations. This is called a BioClear system. What it does, it's a big plastic tub that they put in, you wouldn't believe it, but little plastic pieces of pipe, and that hibernates and keeps the bag of maggots alive during the process. If we do not put enough flow into the system, which is what we all know as residential real estate agents, without enough flow, the system doesn't perform correctly. When you are in a Zone 1 contribution like we are in this location, you have an obligation when you're issued your permit, your septic permit, to have a reporting status quarterly. If you go into failure, they will use that against you to cease and desist your building, to do whatever they want to do to advance you, to improve your situation. Most of the failures are caused, just like a residential home, by the lack of flow. You can see how many people we have in the room today. You can imagine what our discharge might be on a day like today. But traditionally, with 14 employees, we're not even close. So what we had was an engineering group who was letting the mail go directly from the testing facility to the town, not notifying us of the results, and what the town was logging, and somehow it passed them for a number of years, they were logging that we were not getting the clean water discharge to the level necessary. So as you can see, we changed to coastal engineering, and that was me, volunteering, no charge. I went out, met with coastal, went through the whole process, and now we inject food into our large tub, and no matter what the flow is, we've had terrific numbers. But because you're at failure numbers, there's an automatic trigger point in the process, and that is monthly reporting, bi-monthly reporting, quarterly reporting, and then you're back to your normal permit. And that is so that you can see over time that you fulfilled your obligation for your permit.
Thank you. The lower level was slated for building an MLS training center. You know, where we could have a series of computers and do the training and so on. That was, in order to make that happen, and I don't know if you want to speak this, but when they were going to build the building out, it had to be done in phases. Number one, it was financial. So, and to finish the lower level, it had to be done in phases. There just wasn't the money to do it. So phase 1 basically was to take the lower level, 2,650 square feet, and to create a second egress. We had a door that went to an opening, but you'd have to be pretty athletic to get out and up and over. So in a Bostonian type brick look, an egress was formed, stairs were put in, The infrastructure down below, the rough plumbing, and an MLS training room was finished in the basement.
This is the first step that you'll hear about the ADA compliance and how it's tightened over the years. We all remember discussions of a lift. We can all think of some place we've been where they had an open lift, and then it went to an elevator lift, and then it went to a stretcher accessible lift. So it's a tightening of the issue for access at the lower level. When we commenced here, we did not actually even have the door. We cut the wall to put the door in because the windows were large enough to get out the window into the well area, and we were going to put a fire ladder into the well so you could climb out a fire ladder. And that was all that was necessary. We said, let's cut in a door, let's bring in the stairs, and let's improve the situation so it would have a true second means of egress and the safety issue would be handled.
And if anybody has remembered, I wasn't at the meeting last Friday, but the snapshot that went up of the first $70,000 that was allocated to the lower level, that was phase one to make all that happen. In 2004, we got knocked around a little bit, and the build out of the lower level was suspended. Apparently it takes not only the monthly, the quarterly, the biannual, and so on inspections, but it takes approximately 2 to 2.5 years of study before you get a good clean bill of health. And if you don't have a good clean bill of health, then your building permit doesn't have it, it's not valid, and you can't continue to do it. So that we stopped the work on the lower level at that point.
I'd like to offer a little color on that point. Yeah. There were some past presidents and past members who said, well, let's get back on the lower level. So we made an analysis of what are our chances at the Board of Appeals until such time that the septic meets its highest requirement and passes all the rigorous efforts. We suspended it because we took a period of time of feeding the system until we got to the first clean one, and then we had to report over 2 years of clean bill of health. So this was right in the middle of the testing period and still going forward. I would never suggest you go to the Zoning Board of Appeals with a bad septic system and ask leniency for anything. And that's exactly, I made the recommendation not to move forward, and the board followed.
And that's why I have, again, another snapshot of the current board of directors at the time, and a motion that was made by myself. And I think that there was some question or some misunderstanding of why this motion was made, the status quo to not go to the Board of Appeals. We made that because it was just clear that it would be a waste of time, effort, and money to do so. So just wanted, as a point of clarification, I just wanted, that's what that motion represents, if anybody misunderstood it. Okay? Now in 2010, so we leaped a little bit. The leap is indicative of a huge growth in the organization and a lot of moving parts and a lot of things going on in and outside of our organization here that required the time and effort of the board of directors to go in a different direction. Again, we had a lot of turnover in the presidencies and so on, and a lot of good people work on it, but they were, in some years there was some firefighting going on to try to keep our association, in prime form. So, 2010, the board of directors, after, I'll explain in a second what the process was, but they basically voted to continue the build out of the lower level. And here's a motion. There's the current board of directors as of, I think it was December of 2010, and the motion voted to allocate up to $200,000, approximately $70 per square foot, to finish 2,640 square feet of the lower level of the Member Service Center, to be used for MLS training, staff, storage, and so on.
I'd like to add a little color if I could. Chris talks about a big leap from the 204 period to 210. The board of directors never backed off on protecting your asset during that time. So you say to yourself, well, what did we do to look at the issues of this particular room? These bifolds you see came in between that period. We realized that the curtain bifolds we had were not successful for keeping the sound deadening, and our rooms weren't attractive. We insulated in between, we insulated the roof because we had skimmed out the insulation trying to make the original budget. Once we got complete closure here, we found that the town wanted us to have a second means of egress out of that back room, even though with the doors open it meets it. So we put the door off the back. We found that our biggest expense was always the painting of the building. Everybody tells you on Cape Cod the paint wasn't prepared properly, but truly it's about the salt air. We vinyl wrapped all the trim. This is a no paint building now. So this has saved the association tremendous money. So we were moving on a number of building projects. We had to straighten out a great amount of the HVAC. We found when we put our MLS computers in a particular room, they overburdened the HVAC in that room. So there was always money, time, energy spent on this. And my friend Keith Bradley was the president at the time. After 4 years, we paid off Amy Green's loan. You paid this building off in a 4-year window. 2004, we voted and paid the building off. So the directors out here and among us have done nothing but protect the asset for you through this whole period. When we talk about this particular lower level again, we opened up the permit the folders, and I was authorized to go see Michael Stussy, and he does a lot of work in front of the ZBA. I would personally hire Michael Stussy to represent me at the ZBA any day of the week. We went, we looked at the folder, we recognized again that we had dedicated 5 parking spaces to 9 employees to use the lower level. We knew from the get-go that was what we had to finish the lower level. We started to ask Conserve because again, the commercial license and commercial build-out has changed. For a commercial build-out, even to change a toilet now, you're supposed to have an overseeing architect in a commercial building. So it's just almost prohibitive cost-wise. So we employed the architect of Conserve, and they gave us a price on the lift at that time. And we knew from the get-go that the lift was going to cost us more money than the finished lower level. So we knew from the get-go that we had the right to put employees down there. We knew that we could deliver a very affordable project. We knew that we had to finish it to a very high level so that nobody felt they were banished to the low level. But we also thought that it was an investment, and it had come out of the Finance Committee prior to the board voting on it. It was an investment that was prudent for the asset of us and for our ownership of our association. So we brought forward bidding. We knew that phase 2 would talk about the lift and the way we had to do it, but we knew we could finish the lower level if we were prepared to talk about up to 9 people occupying the lower level with the 5 dedicated spaces from the 2,000 permit.
In addition to that, the premise for moving the staff to the lower level, at the end of this, we would love to have you guys all caravan right through the lower level to see what it is, because it's yours. But the idea of moving the staff down there would free up some pretty prime space here on the entry level, which would allow this space to be open for larger groups as we're seeing it right now. There's been a fairly consistent time when this room is being occupied by people of 5 to 15, groups of 5 to 15, and because there's no smaller rooms available. So by moving that, you know, the MLS training could be in the center over there. There could be small conference facilities available. The end of it is it's just another member benefit and a way to increase our non-dues revenue, which we need to do. We have to constantly think about the non-dues revenue, not coming out of your pocket, but coming in from the public. So that was the premise by doing that.
The $70 a foot, I'd like to address that so everybody understands. Again, this was something that we advanced with a set fee of a 10% markup to me. My costs are considerably higher to be in business now than they were in 2002 when I did the 5%. I offered all of my time again. I've never billed for my time. I've never billed for my trucks or my equipment. If you've noticed, this whole process has gone on without a dumpster, for instance. My truck comes over here every Friday and drives the garbage away. There's no dumpster taking spaces. There's no $5,000 budget for your dumpster on this commercial build-out. That's something I have given back. So you have to understand what's necessary. And now, with the commercial requirements the way they are, I've had to meet continuously with the architect who's on the controlled build-out. So that means every time we want to have an insulation inspection, I have to prove to the town that the commercial architect has signed off on it, and then I invite them through secondly. So all of your visits are doubled. Secondly, we've had to reroute all of our ideas on what was a sprinkler system. When that lower level was wide open and easy to spray, you put one series of heads on the sprinkler system and it covered us for fire protection, which is another means of why egress is important at different aspects of it. So we've had a number of vendors through there that I have not charged at all for any time I spent with those vendors. And we've advanced to this point. Lastly, a very disappointing issue for me, and probably the most disappointing, was the discussion that the carpenter down there is my cousin. He is my cousin, and I'm proud of his work, and I'd ask you to go down and look at his work. He's Scott Shields. He bills me under Tri-S. He bills me at $50 an hour. He also holds a commercial license, and he pulled the permit. He is self-insured, and that is the cost he charges me to come to my job site. So you got my best carpenter for $50 an hour that I charge out for $75. You got my number 2 carpenter for his cost of $38 an hour, which I charge out at $68. And you got my laborer, and man, if you want to meet a good laborer, this is the guy, Jesus Rivera, you got him for $15 an hour. You have an invoice for each one of these people, each day, each hour spent. And you've paid what I pay to have them work for me at my job site. Why don't we get through the presentation first?
Almost done, Doug. Each year we have the Jim Kenny from Wolf & Company, who is an independent auditor, reviews all the financials and of the not only the association but the MLS. They advise the organization as to what are reasonable reserves to have, what should be paid out of what side. I'm not really accounting savvy, so I kind of sit there and it goes zoom zoom. But what I get in the end of it is that we pay them. We actually pay a fair amount of money we don't pay for the highest audit. If anybody came to the annual meeting, we had Jim Kenny speak. Did anybody come to the annual meeting last June? I know. We need more of you. So anyways, he was here and he gave a full presentation on the state of economy of the association, so that if anybody wanted to understand that. He knows the ratios, he knows what's going on, and they looked at it saying, you're a very healthy organization, which is kind of not the norm these days. And he suggested that the board of directors create or the president at the time create an investment committee. So the investment committee was created to just go out and explore. And they literally, they interviewed 3 or 4 investment counselor companies, to talk about stocks and sweep account stocks, bonds, and so on. Dick Martin had been in communication with our neighboring property over here to the left about the possibility of acquiring that property. Maybe that's a good idea. And actually, Dick and Jim kind of ran with that one for a little bit, and it ended up that was just not going to be, it was going to be price prohibitive. It just didn't make any kind of economic sense. So I guess my first thought is, I'm glad we didn't go into the stock market, because then you guys would really be upset. But the bottom line is that the investment committee came around and made the recommendation to the board of directors to develop what we'd already started, to finish what we'd already started, to complete the lower level of the member service center, so that the money was coming back into our asset. And yes, there's been roadblocks and hurdles and so on, and they're probably not all done. Whether stage 3 actually comes in and they're on a full lift, interior ADA access comes in, I don't know. It's I will be off the board when that happens. So anyways, that's just how that came about, and it seemed like a very prudent investment to make. It still does. It's questionable in some people's eyes as to the return on investment. We were earning less than 1% on the money that was in the reserves for the organization.
To follow up, one more statement on the billing practice for the lower level build out. Traditionally, as a contractor, with the signing of the contract, you get a third of the value, you get a third on delivery, and you get the third on delivery of the occupancy permit. We advanced this project 2 weeks at a time, bi-weekly billing, and we never advanced any money without a bill being available and checked off along the way. So there was no mystery for the billing process. The billing process was in 2-week intervals and had been completed before it was reimbursed. Highly different than if one of you wanted to call me and ask me to come out and work for you individually.
Jim, would you explain the status of where we're at right now? And
Yeah.
why is it?
Yeah, we're in great shape downstairs. We just got our last bill for the painting. We're significantly under budget. The last bit, if you go down, please go down too. I'm really pleased with the way it came out down there. It's all painted in all the hard trim work and everything that was necessary to make it attractive space. The doors have been sealed on the 4 corners, but undetermined yet until a group is organized by the directors for color. All the trim is painted white in its final coat. We do need some color on the walls. We do need perhaps color on the doors, or even just a sealer on the doors, and rug. Other than that, right now the HVAC, everything is on and running, and we know exactly where we are. We did, because of all the complexity of ADA compliance, pull the middle kitchen out of the issue. The kitchen was just a small serviceable kitchen, which you usually see in any of the function rooms we provide, and we were thinking it was appropriate because of the larger area down below and perhaps some type of training that might be coming forward. In doing that, we agreed with the building inspector to advance the permit by closing off the 2 bathrooms and the kitchenette until such time as the compliance is made on how we intend to handle the lift and or the use of the building. And so that is what you'll see removed from the process. That certainly helped us come in under budget, but the thing that I haven't told you about, which I'm very excited about, is that we, without discussion, or I should say without the original issue being raised, when we were closing up the walls, we realized it was our last and best time to have a generator in place for this building. This building, being a commercial building, has 3-phase electrical. 3-phase electrical is the most expensive electrical you can put in, but it will stand us well over time regardless of the equipment we use in the facility. The 3-phase generators, gas-driven, off of a street, its own feed from street gas, is a very expensive product. And though, because all the feeds come in from the upper level, that is when you need to rewire it to what's called a transfer switch. So that is the brains of the outfit when we lose power, which units in the building revert onto the generator, and how we keep our MLS computers and everything else serviceable. So we have gone forward with that, and that was an expenditure that wasn't originally anticipated, but a smart thing to do when you're sealing up the ceilings and all the other aspects of the lower level. And that runs in excess of $25,000 of that budget. With that in mind and offsets against the bathrooms, we're still considerably under budget. And I'm very pleased to tell you that this building will operate in the worst of conditions.
I might just add one more thing, then we'll open it up to questions. I think that there were some comments mentioned as to whether we had proper permits to be doing this, and a series of permits since 2002 all the way to current. I have a copy of the permit right here that allows us to finish this off for up to 5 spaces and 9 employees. It is limited to employees in stage 2 of this development, but we do have the proper permit on that. Be happy to open this up for questions if we can field them for you.
Hey Jim, did you rough plumb for the future down there?
Yes, actually that, I think she's teasing me because my father had a plumbing heating business. She asked if we had rough plumb for the future. Not only did we rough plumb, we identified that we should be prepared for handicap stalls down there. It wasn't necessary when we did it, but we prepared for that. The handicap stall offsets the toilet, as you can imagine, so that the chair can roll back and somebody can make a transfer. And we prepared for that. We cut the floors, we ran the drains in, we ran the ejector pump. we're in good shape to advance the bathrooms.
The slide you currently have up there says that on the advice of the independent auditor, they said that you should explore the lower level. Now, what did they base that on?
The independent auditor recommended that we create an investment committee to try to increase the return on the investment on the monies that we had in reserves, because the performance of less than 1% was so low. So that their recommendation was we create an investment committee to explore ideas of how we might be able to get some return.
Right, but they didn't specifically say that you should explore lower level.
No,
so that slide is incorrect.
Well, if it's incorrect, I apologize. It wasn't intentional.
And Larry Gallagher, Clear Real Estate. Just to follow up on that, the committee recommended that you do something else with this money because of the less than 1% return. And I've just heard here that 9 employees are allowed downstairs. It can't be used for rental. It can't be used for training. I've also heard that this room up here is not a revenue generator. So if they say less than 1%, we decide to spend $200,000 on a basement that can't make it more than 1%. We have a room up here that's generating less than, correct me if I'm wrong, $9,000 per year. Who decided that that was the best use of $200,000? And just another couple questions too quickly. I've heard under budget twice on the first permit and the second permit. How much under budget and what was the budget for the first build-up downstairs?
I didn't say we were under budget on the first build-up downstairs. We did not.
I heard Henry said under budget by...
I think he was referring to the
construction of the building.
That was the whole building was $60,000 under budget.
The first build-up, was that under budget as well?
Yes. Oh, in the lower level?
Yep.
No, that was exactly as we accounted for, with only 3 or 4 tradesmen.
How much?
$70,000 for all the masonry changes for egress out of the rear and the rough
Now
plumbing.
we've spent $270,000 in the basement that we can't get a return on investment on at all, let alone 1%.
Right.
Okay.
First of all, we haven't spent the 200. We're in excess of $50,000 under budget right now, but we have not finished the bathrooms either. But we have added the generator, which wasn't in the budget. So it's not difficult, it's just layered. You have to look at it in layer. Secondly, when we talked about finishing the lower level, we just talked about how much of our funds should be spent, and the fact is, when do we spend for the elevator? It was never that we weren't going to put the elevator in my mind. The elevator for egress, I mean, the egress is, as I said, our Title V of the 2000. It's just getting worse and worse. It went from any open lift to stretcher lifts. It's just gone on and on. To improve the lower level to the highest level would need the elevator for association use.
Gotcha. That's all fine. I'm just curious still where the advantage is now that we've spent 150, you just said, and we still have to do all these other things, and we spent 70 previously. Even if that allows people down there, we've got this room that over the last 9 years, it was 2004 it was done, so 8 years, we haven't generated any income up here.
Yes.
So why add more space in order to do that? And what's going to change in this room to bring in more income to make up this 200 and something thousand?
Your point's well taken, and there's one ingredient that's missing from that. The reason we can't rent these rooms out is because we're using them as association people. When you have a new room at a lower level, that frees up the occupancy. We own this building as association members for the good of the association. Our first use, our first obligation is to do association business. These rooms aren't for rent if we need them, period. So now what we have is an opportunity to have new room and non-dues income. You also, you're absolutely right, you should assign somebody to sell and get that generated income to a point that's suitable. And that would come as we advance the future and as we know what rooms are available and what the market rate is for these units. We, as an association, when we were down the street, we rented rooms twice a week. And we know there are other associations, including the Builders Association, who like to use our room. We know there's a church that uses our room on Sundays. It just depends on when we cross that line from knowing what's appropriate to take care of our association members and their needs and what we do for non-dues income. We should never risk an additional non-dues income for the loss of rights of our association members, in my mind.
I just want to keep talking about this. You say that this room is used by members. How often in the calendar year How many days are we operating in this room that it can't be rented out?
We actually have a calendar that shows that. We had a hard time even coming up with a lot of different times to have meetings because one of the sides is used. Even MLS Strat Plan will be using it, Events Committee will be using it, and that's a total of maybe 10 people, but it's then not available for rent. I know Chris rented it for his company yesterday because it was available. We also have put, one of our staff people is now, that's one of her responsibilities, is aggressively trying to actually rent the space more.
Last question. Is there something written down that projects the investment or the return on investment after spending this money, where you see the amount that you can rent this room and clearing up the space for all those days? Is there something that says in the next 5 years we're going to make that money back? 10 years, 20 years, 30 years? Anybody written that out?
I know there was a discussion. Do we have it in writing? I'm not aware of it. It's in the back.
Thank you.
Yes?
Just Paul Beatty, Keller Williams Realty. Kind of following up, I guess. I understand there's a calendar for the use of this room. Has there been a time where a large group...
Could you just stand and then maybe... Okay.
What's this? That's all right, I'll speak up.
Okay.
Has there ever been a time where a large group was denied use of this space because there was a small group occupying some of it?
I wish Henry...
You know, if I could interject, I'm Wendy DeLue from William Ravis, and totally impartial. There were a couple of meetings we had as a company this year, and it was very hard for us to get this room. So I can attest to that as a neutral party, at least a couple times where we had to juggle to be able to get the room. We needed the whole space, so that was the issue.
And actually, Chris just said the same thing. He had a hard time booking it as well.
I also recall this particular meeting trying to schedule it with a number of people, and we were jumping all over the plate 30 days out. So there is activity scheduled, and it doesn't matter the size of the group you're displacing. The question is, can you displace people who are here for association business?
The only reason I asked that is
Yes.
you're saying this space can't be occupied if there is a small group.
Exactly.
Yeah, any group, any size group is the best.
Correct, but you're going to move that small group to a smaller room. Would it be available?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Alita?
I've been a member since 1974 and used to meet at the basement with Mr. Lockhart and some of you who are here were here at that time. And decisions like this, my problem is with the process, and I'm so pleased that now we have the process going forward to work together. But I'm bothered by the fact that it had to come this far, because it's been pointed out to us again and again right now that this is your association. This is your money that's sitting in the bank. We have no finance committee, so I hope that's going to be looked at. We always did have a finance committee. There was no transparency for meetings. There was no invitation to discuss this. $200,000 is a lot of money. Whether we're running after permits and availability, did anybody even know it was being done? Did anybody know $200,000 was being spent? I got a letter from the board that said that room was going to generate revenue. It wasn't that room, it was the hope that this area would generate revenue, but we only netted $9,000 for the whole year for this room. So who says smaller rooms are going to generate more? I'll be long dead and gone before we see a return on this money. And my problem is the process. It's not that Jim hasn't been very generous with his time and money, or that the board aren't good people. They are. But it's the process we're here to change, I think, and to make it more equitable. And I did sit on the building committee for this. We spoke to Everett Boyd last night by phone. He said he always knew that was going to be a difficult build out and probably not going to be possible by the time we wanted to do it. So thank you for your time. This is just my viewpoint on it, but I do think if our money is being spent, the decision to spend this much money should have come to the entire membership for discussion.
Marie?
Some of the questions that I had been answered very good. My question is, I'm still not clear what the original budget was for the build out. You're not speaking loud enough. I've never been accused of that.
Susan. My question is, I'm still unclear what the original budget was for the build-out in the basement. I know there was some issues with the septic, but what was the original cost per square foot, and where are we now at cost per square foot for the build-out? Minus the septic, which is a separate issue, and I don't know what the total cost for the septic was, so just for the construction part of the build-out.
Sure. If we go back the slide, it's clearly divided out to show you it's $70 a foot. The motion was 200, the budget was 200. Since then, we deleted the portion of the final finish for the bathrooms and the little kitchenette, but we added the generator. So it becomes a little complex and layered, but in the same sense, we have not exceeded the $200,000 budget. Matter of fact, we're probably about less than 75% of it. And at $200,000, it's $70 a foot. Commercial build-out, sprinklers, everything.
Okay, so for the unfinished part now, how much additional money will be spent, do you project?
We would get 3 bids because I'm all done doing the free work. We'll get 3 bids, we'll let you know.
Okay, so that leads me to the other question. Do we have bidding proposals for the build-out originally?
No, as I said, we did it for cost, invoice cost, plus 10. 10 went to the overhead.
Thanks. I'm Tom Schofer, and one of your government affairs go-to people. I just want to say quickly that not all benefits to our membership are measured in money. This room and the members within have helped raise in this room over $15,000 over these several years for RPAC, which has helped every member in this room make more money and do more business. Thank you.
Yes, Doug.
Thank you. First of all, I just want to thank everybody for being here. We had some concerns. I think we've come to a meeting of the minds with regard to the need for some change to take. I think we've come to a meeting of the minds with regard to the need for change, and it's because everybody's giving some time today and has maybe signed a proxy or two that we're probably going to be able to make the change that we need. The reason we're here is because of the process, and I think that's been spoken about. 6 years passed between when we stopped doing any work on the building and to when the motion was made to continue. And one of the issues that was high on the list for the concerned member group was why didn't it go out to bid? 6 years go by. I don't know. There aren't too many jobs where I hired somebody 6 years ago and then decided to spend maybe 2 or 3 or 4 times as much 6 years later and maybe didn't ask somebody else or no one else came into the picture. Again, that was part of the process. I think at times we all, maybe we don't look at every alternative out there, but I think that's an issue that we need to address in the future. And I just heard Jim mention that he's going to send some things out to bid. We've already started finishing that space. We do have some issues with the building, the permitting, and how much revenue are we going to generate? I don't know that we'll ever see the return if we look at it as a dollars and cents thing. Whether it's the right thing to do or a wrong thing to do, maybe we should have looked at it a little bit more. I think that the change that we're going to bring to this organization is going to help us do that in the future. And the last thing I want to say is that I do want to thank the Board of Directors for working with the concerned member group. Sometimes it just takes a lot of effort. And again, all of you attending this meeting today, submitting proxies, that's how we got here. So I want to say thanks.
Yes, here.
I just was wondering what the work that's been done so far would have cost if it went out to bid and came in under different circumstances.
Traditionally, when I did commercial work, I'm anywhere from 18 to 24%. And I wouldn't show you my invoices.
Come right. In the back.
What sort of car cash you are talking about reinvesting? Reinvesting what?
I don't know that answer. We'd have to get that from our accountant. I honestly don't, I can't answer that.
Been a number bandied about at 1.2 million.
In our reserves, I'm not sure. We can see. Is Evan in today? I don't even know if our accountant is here today, but we certainly can get that answer. And again, I just want to reiterate that this is a 3-step process. And, you know, eventually, we don't know what that third process is going to open it up to, but there is a possibility that eventually it will be, the members will be able to use that space as well. Right now it is strictly for employees, but it's a process. Yes, Karen?
Can you ballpark what a lift is going to cost us?
Say that again?
Can Jim give us a ballpark figure of what an elevator is going to cost?
An elevator?
Yes, I asked Conserve, who's been our control build-out architect, to do that very thing for us. Conserve, they've done a lot of commercial work, as you know, around the car dealerships, and they do a lot of this type of work. They said the car, which pushes the one floor, believe it or not, will be $80,000 to $90,000. And they told us to allow up to a $200,000 budget for a commercial vendor to come in and do the additional work. As we pointed out, and let's remember what I had said earlier before this question, I was clear the lift is so prohibitive now that it's stalling a lot of lower level developments. So the cost of the lifts for ADA compliance is stopping many of our real estate entities from improving the lower level and expanding, which is really what it's gotten to from an ADA compliance issue.
Yes, here.
I'm a little confused. The original building permit to build this building, did that include, within the scope of that permit, the finishing of the lower level?
Yes, it did. It allowed, and that's why it's full height pour. There's 2 significant different concrete pours. It allowed it to be finished. We did not have the money, nor did we budget to finish it.
So that original building permit was comprehensive and included the total square footage, including the finishing of the basement?
Yes. That's how we got to the 9,980 square feet. We don't have 9,980 on this floor. It's with the lower level.
At the time of the issuance of that permit, ADA compliance was in effect.
Not at the level it is now.
But it was in effect. It did exist at that time.
You had to meet certain criteria to need it. If you made other allotments, like if you notice, we do have handicap bathrooms here. If you had 1 handicap bathroom in the facility, you met the compliance. And that may not be so as we go forward.
At the same time, though, in 2000, when this all happened, I know because I was on the finance committee in town of Harwich, we built a community center. We did not finish the basement of the community center. And we were not allowed to finish the basement of the community center unless we proposed handicap accessibility as part of the permit.
Yes, for a municipal building, it's certainly different than a private association building. There's criteria, it's just like the fire code is different in the commercial building based on its uses too. So we're in occupancy at that time, public access.
Okay, so in order to finish the downstairs basement, you didn't require any additional permitting?
No. No.
Okay, I was unclear about that.
Yeah, we stopped, and because we now started, and now want to put plaster on the walls and so forth, you now need to go alert them. Because today's compliance, as I said, if we were to change the toilet, there's suggestions that the code reads you need your control build and you need an architect to sign off on even a toilet in a commercial building.
Deb Schiller.
In order to use the lower space for employees, do we have to have a lift, elevator?
No.
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 Yes.
Just a quick question. What if we have a handicapped employee?
Well, they won't be downstairs at this point. I mean, right now, this is strictly for MLS, moving our MLS people down.
3/4 of our building is in ADA compliance. 7,200 square feet, 7,300 square feet meets all the requirements.
Yes, Marie.
So, is the thinking at this point that maybe we will put in an elevator?
Right now, we're only in stage 2.
Okay.
We haven't evaluated stage 3 at this point.
Because I know we discussed it, but the elevator is very expensive to maintain that elevator as well. So I think getting back to the question that somebody asked, what would the return on the investment be? So
I think one of the focuses here too is, thank you. There's a lot of new changes that are coming forward that we want to do more training for in-house. So that's also going to allow us to set up a training session in one of these vacated rooms so that we can show our PR, which is absolutely fabulous, and I think half of you probably aren't even aware of it or using it. They need training and changes with Rapatoni. So we had that computer room downstairs before. I'm sure most of you were there for either an arbitration or a training session with Roberta. I'm sure you all remember that. Well, we want to recreate that again, and there's no space at this present time to do that. So this is going to free up that space. So there's going to be able to have our committees meet in rooms that will be open. It's going to give us a lot more usability of this first floor. And that's really the point. And I really encourage you, before you leave, to go down and see the work that was done, because it's not like anyone's going to not want to go and work down there, because it's lovely. It really came out really great.
So the employees, the number of employees that are currently here now?
There's currently 14 employees here.
So 9.
I'm sorry, 9.
There's 9. Okay, so those 9 could technically go downstairs when everything is completed. And then how many rooms are available up here that we could actually implement this plan?
3? 4. 4.
4. Okay. And there are
4 or 5. And they're all, some of them are very large. So it definitely can open up different possibilities for us not having to use these 2 rooms.
And when are we projecting the lower level to be completed? That would be the last question.
I'm sorry?
When will the lower level be finished for the employees?
It's all about the committee being organized to pick colors and carpet. It's not 2 weeks of work to be done.
Okay, so it's ready to go pretty much.
Yes.
I'll take one more question, but then I'd like to move on because there are other things on the agenda. Yes.
Yes, I'm wondering, if that downstairs space, is that going to be accessible to the general membership? Is it strictly limited to employees?
Currently, it's strictly for employees.
Well, then if a handicapped member came to the building and needed to have some business downstairs,
they can't go downstairs. If anyone needs to meet with anyone that's downstairs, they will come upstairs. They have plenty of rooms to meet. Especially if it's an MLS question, we will have an MLS room that you can come and Marsha can go over or answer questions with you. Yes, in the back. I'll be right over to you.
Question about the 1.1 million, whatever figure that is that we have in reserves. I guess I would like to question, why do we need that much money to have around?
That's an answer for the accountant, and I'll tell you, I know that Kevin's around. I'm sorry? I can't hear you.
I want to answer that. I was president-elect of the Greater Lower Board of Realtors. We had a case called the Wells case. It broke the board. We were bailed out by the state and nationally. It was to do with discrimination of a non-member not being able to participate in MLS. After all those years, and us sharing a small space in an attorney's office who generously donated to us, we won the case, but they had nothing. And you keep your money in reserve in case of worst case scenario. You know of 93A, there's others out there. IDX right now is coming down the road trying to sue the National Association of Realtors. IDX. There's a contract being drawn, and we hope we can settle it for a couple of $1 million, the National Association. So never spend your money down to the bottom line. Keep it in reserve, even if you're only enjoying 1% interest. There is nothing worse than not to have headquarters. You have no idea how horrible that was. Thank you.
I'm looking to ask questions from people people who haven't spoke, and so we're going to have one more question and then we're moving on. And then afterwards, if you want to ask more questions, fine, but we have an agenda to get through, and there's other points we want to make.
Tim Cciaor with Today Real Estate. The question is, what is that number? How much reserve should we have? That's what we're trying to find out.
Again, that's...
If we carry a reserve of 1.5 and that's adequate, then we can reduce our fees in here. That would be a good way to spend our money. But that's the question. How much is a good reserve?
Well, we can, Henry can actually, we'll just, go ahead. Can Henry speak?
Okay, first of all, I'll be happy to answer your question, but I want to personally thank each and every one of you for being here. I think this, I have to say what I have to say, and I really, really want to thank each and every one of you for being here. This is a democratic process, and I personally I want to take the microphone without expressing my personal earnest gratitude. I talked to Kevin Creedon. What Wolf & Company does, we have an independent outside auditor out of Boston, and it's called Wolf & Company, and Jim Kenny from Wolf & Company has recommended that the association have a minimum of 18 months in reserves, and then there's a similar coefficient for reserves for the multiple listing service, which is a wholly owned for-profit corporation. So the association is a 501c6 not-for-profit organization, and the MLS is a for-profit corporation wholly owned by the association. It's probably worthy to note, I certainly respect the lady formerly from Lowell, because there's a lot of local realtor associations in this state that are not particularly financially sound and healthy. We just happen to be one that is, and I think that's because of you as our membership and valued membership. Kevin told me that Kevin Creedon, our accounting consultant, we have our balance sheet has $2.6 million in assets, and that includes the physical building, the building that we are in, the 8,000 square foot member service center, and of that 2.6 million, $1.2 million is in cash. So if you need further information, I'd be happy to get Kevin here, but I wanted to take the opportunity to answer that question. Thank you.
Okay, and last question.
Hi, Joan.
Hi.
I have a question. The elevator, just for a moment. We have decided on this building, and
not everybody can hear you, sorry.
Okay, Diana Richardson. I understand that we decided on the building because of the parking situation. We know it can only be used for employees. But when I hear conversations still going on about the elevator that may or may not cost us $200,000 for an idea that maybe the town of Yarmouth will let us use that for the membership, that may never happen. They may never, they may never agree to do that. Why would we still be looking at that?
We wouldn't spend that money unless we knew that we could have permission.
And I don't even know why we even thought of even trying to do something like that in the basement when we knew...
It's very tenuous at best. What we know for sure is we have a 9,980 square foot building that's permissible and usable to us. We know it's an asset of all of ours as the association membership. We know that the lower level was not completed to be used for anything at this time. We know that we just approved money to finish it so that 9 employees, up to 9 employees, can use it. And we also know, from talking to the Access Board, if we spend an additional, we know the car is 80 to 90,000, so if we spend somewhere between 150 to 200, we can have an elevator and everybody can use it. So I think the levels of which you think the access is available is not exactly accurate. It'll come with more expenditures. But right now, we know when it's finished, it can be used by our employees. We know that.
It's just such a large cost for us.
Yes, okay, I'm sorry, this is the last question. And when we have to...
First comment is, we're never going to get our money back on the investment. That's an awful lot of money to put in the basement for 9 people.
Second of all, is it not true that when the building permit was pulled out, it was $47,300? Why the $200,000? To me, that seems like just an arbitrary money, amount of money that you guys can just spend.
When you issue a permit, you're supposed to be basing it on the portions of the permit that are affected under that particular trade. So the 200 wasn't reflected because the plumber goes and pulls his license, the electrician pulls his license. Also, carpet is not part of a building permit. Neither is painting. So the things that you can pull out as a fiduciary to keep the cost low to its association are the things we did do.
All right, and I know you have your hand up forever, so I will take yours.
Last issue, the town is aware that we may be looking out for our clients, so the town also has a formula, and they base it on square footage, and the town signed off on this price.
Yes, I'm sorry.
I'm Doreen Cahill. I am Backyard Properties out from Eastham. May I have a microphone? Yes. And just a quick comment. I just want to appreciate the board and people who step up and volunteer. Personally, I think this is the natural progression of this building and what the plan was. Chris, if you would go back to the second slide, and I believe it's your second slide, the last bullet. I love irony. I love humor.
Oh, no, you're not going to catch us going.
No. Back when, I think it's your second slide.
Oh.
1999.
Oh, all right.
1999, I was new to the association. I wanted to get involved, so I got on the new building committee, land acquisition. We came up, we went around, and we looked at properties.
I was nervous. Oh, no, it's okay.
But I think this is just funny. And what happens through time, the committee recommended not this parcel. That's all I'll say based on that last bullet. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We're going to move on now, and before we discuss the Executive Finance Committee, I'd just like to go over a few things with you that have happened this year. I just wanted to let you know that we currently now have over 2,000 members, and while many associations are losing their membership, we have been able to retain our director's seat at NAR. And that enables the Cape and Islands to have an impact at the national level. This is really quite amazing in these times that we've been able to retain this membership. And I just want to thank again all of you. It's just amazing that we are still going to have that representation at NAR. And of course, I know you've all seen my notices before that we actually were recognized by NAR as the best and the brightest this past year, and that was a huge recognition. Do we have is she here to do the, show the screen? Oh, actually, you are. Could we show just the demo of the website? After many years of hard work by the MLS Strat Committee and Cindy Lee, we are ready, just about ready to launch the new and improved website. And this is going to be just a preview of it. There's still some changes to be made, but we are almost there. And this will actually combine both sites. So now you won't have to go on to CCIAOR versus Rapatoni. It's all going to be in one site. While she's doing that, I'll just keep on. Again, our contract with Rapatoni was due to expire at the end of September, and the board is very pleased to announce that after a year of due diligence, we have signed a well-negotiated contract with Rapatoni. And Cindy's going to touch on that in a little bit. Also, we've added rentals to our MLS listing service, seasonal as well as year-round rentals. And again, I think this is a great member benefit for everyone that's now on our sites. And we just returned from MAR and attended a Realtor Property Resource, or RPR, training session. And as I indicated to you before, we were one of the first associations to actually sign up for RPR. I was amazed to find out that Connecticut still is not involved. And if you haven't played with it yet, it's a really good idea to go on because it's amazing, amazing information. There's actually a blog, which is blog.narrpr.com, and they actually have training sessions, etc. So I definitely recommend that you go forward and take a look at that. Okay, we'll just keep going, yep. And also, we have been working on many other enhancements, and just so you know, the minutes of our board meetings are now available on our website, so you can go on and read all the minutes of any of the board meetings. The ones on there are reflective as of the first of this fiscal year. And, okay, so next, let's see, where are we going next? Next, I would like a discussion of the Executive Finance Committee, and I guess I'm asking again Chris to speak on that.
I don't know if there's a slide up there. Marcia, can you get me back to the slide?
We'll do that. We'll do the,
This is really brief. You know, over the last month and a half, there's been just a barrage of emails going back and forth and all kinds of mixed information and so on. So I just wanted to make a point of clarification. And I guess one question that I have, and we've lost a lot of people here already today, but is there, can I just see a show of hands of, since 1990, how many people have been either an officer, a director, served on any kind of a committee? All right, well, look around, because you're in real good company. I mean, there's a lot of people out there that have been up here. The reason that, have you got my, I'm just going to try to clarify, because there's been a question as to, do we have a finance committee? And what's the answer? No. Okay, where did it go?
I don't know.
Okay, so here's my point, is I think we do. And in 1998, strategic plan called for the creation of an executive finance committee. The history of this is really simple. And this is why I'm troubled by this, because there used to be an executive committee that was chaired by the president and a finance committee that was chaired by the treasurer. Okay? So there is one. There was one. So in 2003, the board of directors reconstituted, calling it the Executive Finance Committee, combining the two of them for one very simple reason. We couldn't find people to staff the Finance Committee. You just couldn't do it. Nobody wanted to do it. It's just like trying, in the old days, it was like trying to find people to pay attention to the bylaw committee. Nobody wanted to do it. So there's a motion here, just to kind of, I want you to see a snapshot of the board of directors in 2003. Some really good people that have done a lot of good things for the organization. And you look at the motion, it was made by Crocker, seconding and carried unanimously to reconstitute the Executive Finance Committee to be the Executive Committee, still the Executive Finance, just to be called the Executive Committee, chaired by the President, and have the Finance Committee as part of the Executive Committee chaired by the Treasurer. So it does exist. It has existed. And the Executive Committee reviews that. So I guess I'm confused as to why we don't have it. Can you tell me, Peter?
Love to.
You get 2 minutes now.
Thank you, Chris. The reason that you do not have a finance committee is because you and your board did not do it correctly. These are the bylaws. It talks about the committee. And I'd like to ask Chris, will you read to us in the bylaws when it says we have a finance committee? And I'm going to save you time because I don't have the 2 minutes to wait for you. It is not there. That's why we're proposing to have a finance committee. One further point. The executive committee, with all its authority to spend in place of the board of directors, a finance committee cannot spend anything. They're solely advisory to the board of directors. There is no term limits for while a finance committee is elected in the terms, when it finally gets to be a part of the bylaws, which says what it can do, it should be advisory. There should be terms with some of the old-fashioned, seasoned people that have been here since Columbus left, with some kind of knowledge, might be able to aid and assist the rotation of board of directors. Thank you, Mr. Coy. I think that you really don't have an executive finance committee.
What was that Columbus thing? Is this where I asked for somebody to replace me as a director at large? 12 years, the director at large, that's the best I could get to. So, it's obvious that...
Chair of the committee.
Say again?
I think Peter just said he's chair of the finance committee.
Yeah, I think...
Yes, he would, actually. So, anyways, I think there's, I just want to say that there's a lot of information floating around. There's been a lot of challenge in the credibility of the 11-member board up here. They're not bad guys. One poor gal has only been here for about 3.5 months, and she's ready to run. So, anybody wants my position, if we haven't scared you away, I will support your nomination.
This one, Belma's not on this one.
Thank you. Thank you. And I think that, that's one of the points is that Chris is making, is that even if technically we didn't, that was formed by a previous board. And it's one of the things that we want you to understand is that we have been doing it, we have not changed the bylaws yet, and we are absolutely supportive of some of these changes, but we run our board and our lives under our bylaws. And so we do have a nominating committee presently, and that is the way the bylaws are. So we can't elect things differently than our bylaws say. So I know that Jory was going to say something about the nomination committee. Nominating?
I can. And I'll be most brief. Just an overview, and I'm sure that we're going to go over this as part in discussion, the same that we will with the Executive Finance Committee when it comes time to review the bylaws. But currently, the nominating task force has been in place for the best that I could find out, more than 20 years. And the process of electing members for positions as officers and directors has been the responsibility of the nominating task force and the membership. All the current directors and leadership here today, including any past directors and past presidents, have been appointed by a nominating task force and elected by the membership. As outlined in our bylaws, the nominating task force is made up of 7 members. The president-elect, the immediate past president, and 4 positions appointed by the president: an Upper Cape representative, Lower Cape, and Mid Cape representative. And on even years, a representative from Martha's Vineyard, and on odd years, a representative from Nantucket. Past practice of the nominating committee has been to make every effort to select members with experience on the committee level before advancing to a position as a director, and experience on the board level before advancing to an officer's position. This helps to ensure that the board of directors and the executive committee are made up of experienced members with an understanding of the recent history and current issues facing the board and the membership, and allows for a smooth transition advancing through leadership.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I also would like Cindy Lee to just give us an update on the MLS strategic plan and some of the things that have occurred there.
Can everybody hear me? No, it's the microphone. That's a shock. I have a pretty powerful voice.
You gotta get it.
And I would also like to thank everybody for coming, and I'm sorry that the room emptied out because we really want to hear from everyone. We represent over 2,000 people. You know, we need to hear from everybody. And we hope we have a great turnout at our next meeting. We have many meetings scheduled and planned to show you new things that we are bringing about, and some training and so forth. This is just a quick preview. I'm not going to take you into it too far, get you. It's not done yet. The committee has been tirelessly working on this. Tina LeBeau's in the front, she's on the committee. Margot Wharton, I don't know if she's here. There's a lot of people on this committee. Lynette Helms is here, she's on the committee. It just takes tireless work. You asked us last November at a DR forum to make our MLSs, combine the 2 websites. We've been hearing it for years. Make it so it's not so hard to use. So we've simplified it. The side you're seeing now is the side that the public will see. We're trying to help the public find a realtor, all right? That's there. It's not a public property search button. I just want you to get that straight, all right? We are not doing that right now. And we would only do that with approval from our membership. So this is just for the public to find us, find a realtor. It talks about the education. It talks about the conference center. It talks about MLS open houses. You can find realtors by territories. MLS stats. We're trying to put some things that the public would be interested in that would be sticky. And then after that, you would have to log in to get to your other services. and we're not ready yet, but it's coming. Marcia is working diligently on it. Okay? Thank you.
The public has access to rentals? They can click on rentals?
The public, that's to find a realtor who does the rentals. Okay? Rentals are now up on our Cape Cod and Islands website. You can enter your rental property in. You must have an exclusive to do so. Winter rentals, year-round rentals, and summer rentals. If you choose to use that to enhance your business, you can. I'm old in this business. I've been around a long time. And I remember working at McAbee Real Estate. I now work for Jolly McAbee and Weiner, Coldwell Banker. It's not meant as a commercial, I'm just trying to give you some history. And we had people walking in, 5 or 6 groups of people every weekend looking for rentals because the realtors had the control on them. We had the control of the rentals. It helped us. They came to us to find them. Now with all these internet sites, that's where the public's going. And I realize that everybody's built a lot of money on your own site. So this is to push rentals to the agencies that do rentals. I encourage you to use it. Some of you are using it. I've been using it. I'm getting good hits from all over the place. From again, our stuff goes out and is syndicated to other companies, and then it comes back to us. So the public already has it. We just start giving it to them first. And that's all I want to say about that. Facebook and Twitter. Facebook, LinkedIn, and Twitter has joined the association, is up. You might have got a link to it, they friended you. Marcia is with that, and that's also going to be on our website. Plus, the new exciting thing is Rapatoni. The Rapatoni contract has been ratified. It's been a well-negotiated contract. And they are allowing already, and some LSs already do it, and it was voted in to have your listings linked. Now this is with your DR approval. DRs have to approve it for their companies, okay? But your listings can be automatically linked to Facebook and Twitter through Rapatoni. Did I say that right, Marcia?
It might be Twitter or LinkedIn.
Yeah, it's Facebook and Twitter, I believe. Okay, so that's great. It's good news. We're advancing. We're getting modern technology, and it takes time. Anybody have any questions?
Right up on the screen, this is a public-facing website?
No. Yeah. Well, all websites are public. All right. So this what we're looking at is what we want to advertise and get out to the public of how to find a realtor through Cape Cod. This is not a property search button.
Last year when we were on this whole subject, my biggest concern was that this is, as I just said, public, so that means the customers, the clients can view this website. As far as your marketing strategy for this, are you going to be spending money to promote this website so that other clients are going to be able to see this and then come to the site?
Other clients?
Yeah, I mean customers, buyers, sellers.
We're hoping that with this site, and of course that's for committee levels and so forth, in order to...
Cindy, use the mic, please.
I can't believe you guys can't hear me. My mother used to pray for me to get laryngitis. It never happened. Okay, we're hoping to use our website to push business for sellers and buyers to find us as companies.
That's my problem. I do have a problem. The problem is that our company spends thousands and thousands of dollars to promote ourselves. So we're going to, in essence, be competing with you if you're going to market this to buyers and sellers that are then going to come to this website and get their choice of who they want to choose. It goes against everything that I'm doing to try to make my website #1, to try to get my customers and clients to come to me, and for whatever anyone else does. If you've got your niche or what you're doing, this is kind of saying, oh, we like what you're doing, but we're going to do this so that we can funnel everybody to everybody. I just have an issue with it, and we can discuss it more.
Larry, I just wanted to endorse and respect absolutely everything that Larry Gallagher said. The Board of Directors absolutely has not, I emphasize has not, made any decision to spend resources to promote our website to direct potential buyers and sellers away from your websites. We've heard that loud and clear from our key stakeholders like Today Real Estate, like Kinlan Grover, and many other firms. And that was an exhaustive discussion that we had in 2009 when Jamie Regan was president. And the board of directors and the membership were very attentive and aware of that. So I wanted to make it, I asked the president if I could have the opportunity to take the microphone to make that crystal clear that we exist to provide services to you. We exist to be your business partner, and we do not exist to compete with you, and we will not compete with you. We will only do anything that is in your best interest. So I appreciate the opportunity to make that crystal clear. I've spoken to a number of other people about this in recent months and such, so I just wanted to clarify that. Thank you.
Marie.
I appreciate what you said, Henry. I am just wondering how this is any different than the way we're marketing all of our listings on the Cape Cod Times Online. I mean, it's the same idea, isn't it?
No. Well, currently this is not, the consumer cannot see our listings on this site.
Right.
That's a discussion that is also, I mean, something that to look into. But right now, a lot of membership doesn't want it to be public, and some members do want it to be public. So we really have to evaluate
right. No,
as a decision down the road.
But we are public on Cape Cod Times Online. I mean, all our listings are public. So I don't really see a whole lot of difference other than it's promoting the agent versus promoting the listing. It feels the same to me.
Yes.
Do you want to clarify that?
I think that there is a segment of the public that is distrusting of anything that smacks of commercialism. And these people will seek out a site that is nonpartisan, such as the Board of Realtors, to help them in their search for whatever it is they want. And that's the reason, that in my mind, is the reason why we as the Realtors need a nonpartisan public face. Because that, you know, Larry works so hard to spend so much money to promote his site, but there is a segment of the population that just will not go to his site because it's his site.
Okay, I understand what you're saying. So the same segment of population, wouldn't they also want to be commercial free and be able to search the listings the same way that they would search agents? Rather than going to the Cape Cod Times Online.
I agree. That's why we should. That's one reason why
it's the same.
Our listings should be available.
This is something that definitely is going to be debated in the future. It's you know, and it's definitely there's pros and cons on both sides. Right. This is something that the membership as a whole will have to decide.
We are doing that now. We are on the Cape Cod Times Online now. Where
our IDX goes out to tons of different. We're on Trulia, we're on Yahoo, we're on all of them. So I mean, but yes, I totally, Marie, but I think that's yes.
The Find a Realtor button was at the DR meeting when we were discussing the site, and one of the questions that came up was, is the list going to rotate so that, you know, it's not all the agents with A's.
I think you search by area. You know, I think I'm not part of this group, so
you can search by somebody. The way that it's set up right now is that you can search by either a name, a specific office, or a town.
So if you put a town in, will it come up alphabetically?
Yes, it will.
So it's not rotating. It's not rotating then, it's just alphabetical.
And that's something, I mean, that's something the strap plan can consider as well.
Yeah, this site isn't done. This is just a sample of how clean it is, how nice it is. It's less confusing. This site is a work in progress, and that's part of the problem of why you asked us last November to combine two sites, and I think it was the year before that too, why it takes so darn long. It's a process. And the committee is working on it very hard. The committee is well represented. and it's a work in progress. So I would suggest that if you have suggestions, that you email them to communication@ccior.com, or email them to Marcia, which she now has a new email address, msterling@...
Yes, Mrs. Sterling.
Mrs. Sterling, Marcia got married, MLS.com, so I can bring them back to my committee and put them on the agenda.
I'll get to you in a minute. Bob was first. Bob?
Okay. First of all, I want to thank the leadership and Henry and everyone else involved for putting on a wonderful presentation today. Having been in your seat, Joan, I know exactly what it's like to be sitting up there. It's kind of a lonely perch there some days, isn't it? But I want to thank the Concerned Realtors Group, of which I attended some of their early on meetings, for raising some issues that we've addressed in an adult, focused way. And they've stirred the pot pretty well so that we can look at some of these things and make some adjustments and changes as we have to do in our own personal lives and business lives. And I think it's all good and all very, very healthy. We are sitting in a paid-for building with quite a bit of money in the bank to cover potential stormy days, which might come up, as this person sitting in front of me described. And what's wrong with all of this? I mean, I can't imagine what a better place to be in. We're sitting on the jewel of New England in terms of a real estate market. There are realtors that would kill to be in our marketplace today. So it's all good, and I think we want to build from here in a cohesive way, which it appears to me is going to start happening more and more now. And I'm really, really pleased to hear that. With regard to the public-facing website, I don't want to get too deep into that. Only to say that I have some thoughts about it. But I had an opportunity to air my thoughts with a committee that worked exhaustively on this last year, chaired by Jeff Moore. We worked for 6 months, and I don't know what happened. Can anybody help me with that?
I believe it was 2 years. I think time's gone by. I think it's 2 years. And I would like to address Lynette. Lynette, would you mind speaking? Bob had a question about, he had some information when he's worked with Jeff Moore on this. And this, again, is not a property search button, so don't get that confused with what we're showing you.
No, what I'm saying is that this committee worked exhaustively on the public-facing website issue, as well as how our information was going to be disseminated amongst other groups and other commercial entities such as the K5 Lines. And it just it didn't seem to get aired. Jeff made presentations to the board of directors, and where did it go?
Okay, I think probably the best person to answer this would be David Callahan, because that came up to the end of my term, and then when David took over, it was a different format. You're right. I mean,
I'm not trying to stir up trouble. I'm just suggesting that
you're right.
Working committees should be of value.
And different people have different visions, and that vision sort of ended at that point in time.
Okay. No, that's great. Thank you.
Do you want to answer that?
I think in that 2-year time period, the consensus...
You're speaking to the mic.
The consensus changed on whether we should have a public-facing website or not. And I think the consensus was clear when I was president from the board and the members that I spoke to that it's not something they wanted, and that wasn't the direction we were going to go in. And Jeff Moore actually, he stepped down from doing that, who had been kind of the leader of that process. And when that committee died, when he moved on.
Okay, Henry?
Can I also add a comment to that, or not?
I think everybody needs to get back to business here. So.
Yeah, I'm going to be very brief, but I think that what the question deserves a fairly direct response. And that is, Jeff Moore did do a lot of work in terms of internet strategy, but the internet strategy that Jeff Moore did, Jeff Moore was an amazing professional. He did a really super job. However, I don't think that the general membership, you've already heard from people in the audience today, that model did not resonate with everyone. And the MLS as an entity has we have different constituencies. We have top producers, we have large firms, we have medium firms, we have small firms, we have franchises, we have non-franchises. We have a diversity of membership, and the MLS that we have, that whatever model that is advanced, has to meet the significant majority. It's a higher level standard of fiduciary duty that we have to meet. So even though we're very grateful and appreciative of all the work that Jeff and his committee did, if it's offensive, particularly to large firms and franchises and top producer firms, it's the kiss of death. You have to do something that is beneficial to people, so the firms in our membership know that we're working, as I said earlier, in partnership with them as opposed in opposition to them. And that's something that our board of directors has always had a rich history on, and we definitely continue working always on your behalf and what's in your best interest, and it's a democratic process. So I just wanted to state that. Thank you for that opportunity.
Okay, does anyone have any last question? Because we really, yes, in the back there.
Hi, my name is Ross Scully, and I would personally like to thank the board and this group of people for coming together and holding open discussion. I think it's been good for our membership. Matter of fact, I think it's been tremendous for our membership. Jim Crocker, you were to be applauded for standing up there and answering the questions for the
I just want to reiterate that this is a great board. We always have what's in the best interest of the membership at heart. We put in a lot of hours. I can't even tell you how many meetings we had last year. I know our bylaws say we need to have 4. We meet at least every 6 weeks, right? At least. And since July 1st, I think we've already had 6 meetings. So we welcome you. We thank you. As I said, from now on, all of our all of our meetings will be on the internet so that you can read what we're doing. We welcome your input on anything. We have a we want open communication with all of you. We care what your thoughts are. Please don't hesitate to contact any of us at any time. And again, I thank you for your time today, and go out and sell some property. Thank you.
Looks like.
Is this senior downstairs?
It is. This is the guy that you work with. No, I think that's a self-guy. He's had a rough day.
Little office.
He used to go up.
Here's the storage part.
Let's go to the right. Go to the right? Okay.
This is the storage.
Yeah.
Oh wow, it goes all the way around. Chairs and whatnot.
Boy, the ceilings are low, aren't they?
Yeah, this is the area where it's mostly storage.
Yeah.
Antique computers? Antique, yes, our computers. I mean, it really is nice.
Yeah, that sure is.
That's not so nice. This is
Yes, that goes in the front of it.
That's where you're going to smoke.
but I'm not real